It is election night. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I have a million tabs open, so it's going to be one of those evenings. I hope everyone got to vote early, so they didn't get a million things, a million texts, a million calls, all the mailers. And unless you're like me, who likes to collect all the mailers and see all the texts that people send. But it is finally over. We are at 8:03 p.m. Things have finally closed out. We are now waiting for the results to pour in. If you are joining us for the first time, this is the Working Families Party here in California. My name is Aiden. I am one of the statewide organizers with the party here in California. It's almost about to be my 2-year anniversary here with the party. Not my first elections, though, so I know how many things ride on these exciting events. The other thing I want to make a note of also is we likely might not get a bunch of the results tonight. I'm hoping we get a decent amount, but with being a vote-by-mail state, folks are typically slow to get theirs in. I myself just voted today. But if folks want to chime in at any point, feel free to. You can chime in on the chat. You can do reacts. You can share any links that you see. I have a million things open, as you can see on the tab itself right now. I have my spreadsheet open with anything that could come up. I will be checking this as we update things throughout the night. Again, I hope you have had a good night so far. I'm glad it's not raining anymore. The big thing I want to make a note of, again, some Sacramento. Thank you, Miguel, for joining us this evening. The big thing, again, I want to say is we might not get all the results that we want tonight, and might not get all the results that we want for like a couple weeks, perhaps. Notoriously slow, especially in a low turnout election. Elections could be decided by just a handful of votes. So it's really important that we be mindful of that. And just because things look a certain way right now doesn't necessarily mean that they will remain that way, especially for close races. But thank you for joining us, Miguel. Other folks, if you want to introduce yourself, chime in where you're joining from. Doesn't have to just be from California. The more the merrier. I know this is going to be an ongoing thing throughout the evening. So I really want to make sure folks are comfortable here. This is a great spot to hang out. I will be providing updates throughout the evening. But I was actually in Sacramento this morning. It's crazy how long the day feels, but I was up in Sacramento helping out with a couple of campaigns up there. We have 3 candidates up there, Mai Vang, Katie Valenzuela, and then Dr. Flo Coffer. All running in the city of Sacramento. So I was up supporting them. I drove up to Sacramento on Friday, stayed up there through the weekend, to Monday, and to this morning. And then my colleague Neil, who is up there currently, is helping run the election night party up in Sacramento. So hopefully, if folks are up in Sacramento right now, you're able to hang out to the party, swing by the party. But Miguel, thanks for joining us virtually. Other folks, again, I welcome you to chime in at any point. I would love to hear how this election is looking for you. Things that you're excited about, places and races that you are really interested in. If it's something that definitely overlaps with stuff that we're focusing on, I'll be extra sure to check out any of those results there as they come in. But really want to make sure that we can get everything out to folks, because one of the things that we understand is not a lot of folks pay really big attention to some of these smaller races, especially anything lower than Congress. I mean, congressional races are big, are important. Yes, they help to determine things in the House of Representatives. But when it comes to folks' day-to-day interactions, like stuff with public transit, stuff with housing, environmental justice, criminal justice, there's so many different things that cities and counties and even the state legislature focus on. So really taking the time to support these candidates, support the folks on the ground, really will help us build out the future that we want. So again, thanks to everyone who's decided to join us this evening. It's 8:07. I do not know how quickly the results will come in. I'm furiously updating and checking all my tabs as we go along, and I have all my colleagues up on, not speed dial, but up in the other chat in case they hear any updates on the ground before we get to talk about them here. But Miguel, how did you find out about the this live stream this evening? If you don't mind sharing. Also, the reason I'm not playing music is because YouTube is notoriously a stickler with any copyrightable music, or else I would. If we want a different platform, I would play music, just so we can have something nice in the background. Let's see. I also have not paid any attention, unfortunately, to any of the other races across the state. It is Super Tuesday, but all of my energy has been focused here just on California. So if folks have any other good news of how things are looking in other states or some other races out there, please let me know. I would be happy to hear how things are looking in some of our other states. I believe Texas had their primary as well today. So that'll be interesting to hear how things went out there. I know we have a couple of congressional races that folks are really focused on in terms of like taking back the House. I saw a couple articles, I think it was this morning or sometime over this last weekend, where folks mentioned that the road to taking back the House could be through California and not through New York, as was previously thought. So hopefully that gives us a good future to look forward to as we ramp up stuff towards November. And I apologize if the font is a little tough to read on the slides that I have up right now. We just have tracking a lot of races. So that's really important for us to really see what's going on everywhere. But again, please don't feel shy about introducing yourself in the chat. It's always is nicer when we have folks to talk to. Let's see. One of the things that I know going into this evening was that we're facing a lot of really low voter turnout in terms of just stuff across the state. It's unfortunate. Oh, hi from Fresno. What's up, Landon? But we are facing low turnout. This is kind of what I saw is this was kind of a reaction to not having a competitive primary on either side, the Republican or the Democratic Party. Oh, that's fantastic. The progressive DA in Austin survived his primary. Thank you for sharing that. That is good. The whole DA situation is crazy. So I'm glad, of all places, indeed Texas was able to keep the progressive DA surviving as primary. I myself worked on the anti-recall campaign for Chesa in San Francisco two years ago now, somehow. But we're definitely facing and seeing a lot of right-wing in the guise of centrist attacks on progressive DAs across the state, here in California, and then especially just nationwide. So hopefully things don't look too dire in other parts of the state. But I think we'll be getting some of our first Sacramento updates in shortly. Let's make sure. Let's see. So we got some of the first ones in, it looks like, for Katie Valenzuela. It's very low votes in right now. 1,878 in for Katie, 5,129 with 36%, which is the percentage of the vote. 3 total candidates. Yeah, it definitely is looking like it's going to be Garvey versus Schiff in the Senate, which is not ideal. I mean, I could spend all evening probably talking about that in particular, but it's one of those races where I believe Adam saw that the best way to coast to an easy victory is to uplift the Republican in the race, give them some extra screen time and everything. But in terms of like another race update in Sacramento, the one that just came in is, it looks like Dr. Flo is in 4th place, but it's all really close right now because there's only 4% of the vote in. Again, this is what we expect. Again, for those who joined a little later, I only joined. I only submitted my ballot early today, driving back down from SAC. So there are a lot of folks who I know wait to vote on E-Day. And even though I didn't vote in person, I still decided to submit my mail ballot in today. And when I was dropping my mail ballot off at the library, I saw just a bunch of other folks just dropping off their mail ballots as well. So even when folks have their full ballot and everything for a whole month, they're going to be able to decide to wait. I mean, that's one of the things that we see. And then on the flip side of stuff, when I was canvassing for Dr. Flo in Sacramento, as we were talking to folks, some folks still just don't even know that there's an election happening. I mean, that's one of the drawbacks at this time of having an early primary for a presidential primary, but not having it be competitive. First week of March, folks don't think election time is around. Normally they expect June or definitely by November. But that's not something that come a March they expect to have. So it takes a lot for campaigns and candidates to really get folks out to vote, remind them there's an election, and even despite all of that, making sure they actually go and vote. You can persuade them that your candidate's the best, but when it comes to actually getting them to vote, that's a whole process. And I can talk for hours, basically, on best practices for these things, because it's difficult sometimes for folks who stand on the outside of things to think, oh, everything, um, everything's super interesting and super exciting in terms of uh, getting candidates out. We have super progressive candidates. All of these things are nice and great. But then when you actually think about things from voters' point of view, they have so many other things going on in their lives, so many things on their plate, that it just makes it difficult to really get stuff. And yeah, I mean, Isaiah, the primary shows, just the Senate primary in particular, the just amount of money spent on it shows just how crazy campaign finance reform is. I mean, the fact that so much money is spent on this stuff is honestly crazy. And there's so many folks that just shovel in money. You can have packs on packs on packs on packs, really trying to get whoever they want in. So there's a lot of it's absurd. I mean, and unfortunately, money isn't the kingmaker. But for some of these larger races where it's more reliant on this money and everything, it definitely makes it difficult. But yeah, definitely shout out to Braden Murphy for Sac County Board of Supervisors, Board of Directors. Let's see what else we have. I want to make sure I'm not missing any updates as they come in. Currently, it looks like, who is it? So Nikki Fortunato Bass in Oakland, or current Oakland council member and running for the Alameda Board of Supervisors. She is currently in first place, so that was a good development there. Again, really low returns so far, but we got races everywhere. I mean, Isaiah, yep. Yeah, there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of things that I think really, a lot of betrayals and a lot of things that just didn't play out well for Congressman Barbara Lee in the Senate race. I mean, the amount of money spent behind it, and then Schiff being kind of like the handpicked person to do this, and him not being super on board with it all. There's a lot of things here that okay, it was Board of Supervisors, but yeah, so there's a lot of things here that lessons learned. I mean, when folks show you their true colors, don't wait for a second chance to take a chance on them. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, the whole Senate race, I remember when it first kicked off, there was so much enthusiasm behind it. It was like, oh, this is the chance for us to get a really good progressive into the Senate. And then as things kind of developed and as the election came in and politics played its role, and then the money came in, there was a lot of stuff that just didn't pan out the way it was. And yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that I was thinking about too, Isaiah, in terms of some of the external support for Congresswoman Lee. Bernie's support definitely could have helped. I believe, and this is my personal assessment, that the 2020 endorsement process and like who endorsed who in 2020 definitely played a role in that. But who knows whether that did or not? It's up to just thoughts and interpretation. But something like that definitely would have definitely boosted support, definitely boosted excitement. And especially when you actually start talking to younger voters and folks who are really passionate and like involved in the whole ceasefire movement and supporting Gaza. Once you started talking to folks about like, oh, this is something that Barbara Lee is really passionate about. She was the first one that came out in favor of the permanent ceasefire. Her vote post 9/11, all of those different things really resonate with folks. And in a really massive state like California, that message needs to get out there often, loudly, and quickly. So, and an amplifier like Bernie would have been really good there too. Let's see if there's any updates on Braden. Nothing's updated quite yet. But again, as I provide updates and everything, I want to make sure that folks know that, like, hey, the early results are normally the folks that vote at the very beginning. Typically older, wider, more affluent folks tend to vote early. It's really important to keep that in mind, just because as I provide updates, there's a lot of things that we need to be mindful of, because maybe things just don't look our way right now, but down the line it could. Yeah, I mean, Isaiah, that's the other thing too, that all the other statewide elected folks, except Newsom, endorsed Lee, and having all of that behind her was really strong. And again, it comes down to unfortunate politics of these things. No surprise that Pelosi and Newsom aligned on who they wanted to support for stuff, basically, and who they were kind of leaning towards. So it's all the things, until you get really down into the crazy politics of it, really make it unfortunate for progressives. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we exist as working families parties. Like, there are so many things against working class candidates, so many things against folks who are fighting for the right stuff, that in order to get them into office, we really have to throw down for them. Really getting engaged in the field, in supporting them, training folks up, because even with large races and small races, every little vote matters. So it's crucial for us to support folks and train folks up. And personally, I really find it fulfilling and enjoyable, which is why I'm kind of in this work to begin with, that we are able to help out folks. And so despite the low turnout, and despite some of the things, especially for the Senate primary, not panning out the way that people would like, I'm still kind of optimistic about how we can do things in different cities, in different counties. So like currently, so currently in LA, Sasha Renee Perez is up. She is running for state Senate District 25. And so I Isaiah, to your point of like what we do, like, yes, we are WFP as Working Families Party, and we exist as a third party in a sense, but we also work within the current existing system. It's not enough to just be like, okay, cool, I dislike the Dems on all of this stuff, okay, bye, I'm gonna leave you alone. It's really all the different things that we want to focus on. Like, how do we build out power in a system that already exists? We can still run candidates, we can still support candidates, but to be like, oh, you need to run on a completely different party line, or you need to completely distance yourself from the Democratic Party. I don't want to say stranglehold, but essentially the stranglehold that the Democratic Party has on like elections in California is so strong, and Republicans and conservatives are already picking up on this fact. And I don't know if folks have noticed it in some of the areas that they're in, But especially in some of these elections, and I'll point them out as we see them, there's candidates who run as Democrats who were former Republicans, still hold all the Republican beliefs, but they know that there's just not a viable chance of them winning because Democrat is just California's blue. Again, it depends on the issues and everything in certain regions in the Central Valley and areas like Orange County and in the Inland Empire. That obviously changes a little bit where Republicanism and Republicans have a bit more of a stronghold. But so many folks, especially in the Bay Area, in some more of the suburban area parts of the Bay Area, Republicans are rebranding as Democrats in order to challenge Democrats in their own primaries. And not that we are doing the same thing, but we are acknowledging that in order to make actual change, in order to get our folks into office, we have to utilize the existing systems. And it's actually one of the reasons I am really glad that we do this, because, and one of my favorite lines that we repeat and we keep in mind and keep as part of our North Star as WFP is that we are a non-delusional third party. And I feel like doing things within the process of the Democratic Party, but still being mindful of our values and knowing who to support and all that different stuff really helps to define all of those things. I was talking a bit. Let me make sure I see all the updates. So it looks like George Gascon in LA County, he's the district attorney in LA, is in first place still. And that is good because I believe DA Gascon was up against 11, I think it was 11, or maybe there's 11 total, 11 candidates. So that is a positive development there. Obviously, there's room for improvement for all these things. DA races and DAs in general are an interesting piece, but that's definitely something that we are grateful for because a lot of the time DAs are really reactionary, and it's good to have someone who understands the nuances and the effects that all of this criminal justice system has on individuals and communities to really make those changes. Let's see. Shade El-Hawari, who's running in Assembly District. I have so many tabs open. Assembly District 57 is in second place, which is good. Shade is in South LA. I don't know the exact boundaries and borders, but Shade is definitely someone that we are looking forward to supporting, continuing supporting. And that's the other thing too, actually. If this is the first time you're joining us, we are really passionate and excited about building out our squad. And we have in California, you know, there's a squad that exists in Congress, is its own different thing. In California, we have our own what we call squad of folks in the state legislature. This kicked off in 2020 officially, and this started off with two individuals, Alex Lee and then Ash Kalra, both in the South Bay area, as two of our first endorsed folks of the squad. It then extended to folks like Tina McKinnon, Corey Jackson, Liz Ortega, Carolyn Menjivar, a bunch of folks in the state Senate and the state assembly who we know align with our values and will actually, one, refuse corporate donations, stick to the Mod Caucus, and continue fighting for working families, in addition to building out the infrastructure needed to actually make this change. And so this time around, we have a bunch more individuals that we hope to add to our squad, both in the Assembly and the Senate. So if you hear me mention squad, just know that those are the folks that we are thinking about and uplifting. And we have folks, again, across the Bay. I don't think we have anyone in the Central Valley for the squad, but a bunch in LA County, some in OC, and then a couple in the Inland Empire. So Again, folks up and down the state, we've aimed to make change all across the state here in California, and there's a lot of things that we can do. And one of the big things that we hope to do, I mean, in the next couple years as we get more folks elected, is really pass the legislation that working families need and progressive folks have been fighting for. So universal single-payer healthcare. Assemblymember Culver has been pushing for this a couple years now in different cycles, and it always gets stopped and halted by the moderates in the assembly, as it hasn't made it out of the assembly to the Senate side yet. Or even Assemblymember Alex Lee's wealth tax, something that he's introduced, I believe, 3 times now, and it only ever first got its hearing this last, actually just 2 months ago, I think it was. But there are so many things that we really need to get folks elected to so they can pass stuff in the state legislature, and that affects all Californians. It's not just like, okay, we have one victory in this city, we can continue the victories out for other areas as well. Let's see. I want to make sure we have other updates coming in. San Bernardino County, very low vote by mail, so I don't know if we're going to get anything really in right now. But are there races in Georgia? Yeah, I mean, I was actually in Atlanta. WFP, we actually held our what is it called? Like a retreat in Atlanta. Oh, what was it? 2 weeks ago now? 2.5 weeks ago now? So I was in Atlanta for about 3 or 4 days. It's kind of a blur. It was a quick there and back trip. First time ever in Atlanta though, and it was fantastic. I love it there. But yeah, so we're definitely hoping to actually build out more in Georgia too, because of, well, I mean, it's every state's important. Maybe not Alaska, but we're definitely hoping to build out in other parts of the country. So I mean, I can also make sure to connect you, Isaiah, to two folks out in Georgia, in case you're not already connected with them. I think it's great that folks always have a lot of things that they're supporting, and y'all have a lot of stuff. And I'm just thinking of stuff that the Atlanta folks mentioned about their work just in Atlanta itself, with stopping Cop City and all the stuff around that. It's not just electoral work sometimes that we do. It's where can we best support working class folks, and how interconnected is all of these things? Because once one Cop City goes up, it sets the playbook for the rest of them, and to really throw a wedge in those processes can help us figure out how we can best fight those things. Let's see. Yeah, so let me, do I have the socials here? So if you go to our, let's see if this works. So if you go to the link tree, follow our Instagram. I have access to our Instagram. Shoot us a DM, and I'll just make sure to connect you there. And if folks have any questions about this, all of our links and stuff can be found there on the link tree. There's a bunch of things, if you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, we got a bunch of things that you can look up, become Produce Prime members, check out the other events. One of the things that I hope to do more often is a lot more of these live streams. not just for election night, but for other events that we have coming up. So we have a welcome gathering for folks of you in California who are interested in helping out and want to know more about WFP, actually. Just California WFP in particular. We have our welcome gathering next Monday. I believe I set it to exclamation mark welcome. If you put that in the chat, you should be able to get the link for that. And then we're going to go through, we'll have an official California recap in, I don't remember what day, 2 weeks from yesterday. So the 18th. So Monday the 18th, we're going to have like the official California WFP recap where we go into all the different things that we're focusing on. So that's really, if you want to see how things end up after tonight, after we get the initial results, that's one of the things that I think you might be interested in. Again, all of those links should be found on our WFP Mobilize exclamation mark events. Should take you to all of those events that come up. Let me make sure I'm not missing any updates. Okay, let's see. Nikki Bass still in first place for Alameda County Board of Supervisors. Sade still doing well. Sasha Renee Perez doing well too. Let's see. Also, if folks have any questions while we are going through anything, if I didn't clarify stuff, if I used an acronym that did not make sense or didn't elaborate on, please feel free to let me know, ask in the chat. Sometimes I forget that I eat, live, and breathe this stuff, and not everyone else has the time to do so. How's Barbara's house he's looking? So, Latifah Simon was running for that seat, and I think she's likely going to coast to that. We endorsed her for that congressional seat. So I think let me actually pull it up. Let's see. House of Representatives. Yeah, so Latifah Simon's currently at 42.2% of the vote with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with 8 other individuals in that race. And so the closest other person is 16.5% to Latifah Simon's 42.2%. So not to call it early, but it's looking definitely pretty good for Latifah, for Barbara Lee's House seat there up in Oakland. So at least we're going to keep another strong progressive in that seat. It's unfortunate that Congresswoman Lee won't be there following the end of this term here, but it'll definitely be interesting to see what she brings. Let's see, there was another one I wanted to check. Again, if there's other races folks think of or want me to look up, Let's see. No surprise, Isaac Bryan's ahead for his re-election in the assembly. Easy coasting there. Yeah, I definitely Barbara has a great legacy. There's definitely a lot to be proud of, and I every time I stumbled upon one of her ads and stuff, I like learned something new and like something about her vote and something about her past and stuff that she'd been fighting for forever. And I was like, damn, I wish more people knew this because there was just so much positive and inspiring actions um, that just kind of really, I think, folks missed out on. Um, so it'll be interesting to. I hope. I don't say I hope like folks realize after the fact like just how great Barbara like all of her legacy was in Congress and everything, and how that could have carried over to the Senate. Um, I don't take it that a lot of folks are going to be doing the research after the fact, given that it's going to be Schiff versus Garvey. It'll be a simple coasting for Schiff moving through November. So we will see what happens there. But definitely, Barbara's legacy is something that I think a lot of folks were not aware of and hopefully do become aware of at some point. Let's see. We have Miranda Sheffield in Pomona, who is only down by 60 votes right now. Again, this goes to my point every single time of just how important it is for folks to vote, especially in smaller races. So it's definitely one of those things that really folks don't, I think, understand sometimes. um, Especially when you talk to progressives and you talk to them about anything that has to do with stuff locally, just how important and how useful it is to actually get involved with stuff on the ground locally. So many of these races can be decided by like less than 10 votes, especially on small city council races. Excluding big cities like San Francisco, LA, even San Jose, where the districts are tens of thousands of folks, there are some elections, some races that are just super small. And we had a couple last cycle in 2022 in the general that were, I think, less than 10 votes that they got decided by. Some good, some bad. I think some folks lost by 5. But it just really goes to show the importance of these things. Thanks for subscribing, Kay. Welcome to the party. We're just chatting about things that come up. We're going through the races as the results come in. If there are any races that you're interested in or really want us to focus on or like be mindful of, feel free to uplift them. Also, feel free to say hi. You're not obligated to, that you don't need to, but always great to hear where folks are joining from. I know Azia's from Atlanta, and then Miguel's up in Sac. And then we had Landon in Fresno. So definitely Central Valley actually showing up. Happy for y'all. That's good. No surprise, Mai Vang won in Sacramento. She was running unopposed, but we still celebrate our wins when we get them. So Mai will remain on the Sacramento City Council. I'd like to think I played a part in that and helping canvas over the weekend. I know it's not how it works when someone runs unopposed, but that is definitely how it looks. Yeah, let us take a look at the 47th congressional district, which is Katie Porter's. So right now it looks like Republican Scott Baugh is at 29.8%, with Democrat Dave Min at 29.5%, and Joanna Weiss, another Democrat, at 21.2%. So it will probably go to, no surprise again, to the general. Scott and Dave, Republican Democrat respectively, are just 200 votes away from each other, 0.3% away, with the Republican ahead only by, again, those 200 votes. So we'll see how this ends up as we continue throughout the night. But let's see. Yeah, so that's how that's looking. Let's see if there's any others I've missed. Yeah, leaving that swing district open was definitely a decision. I can't say it was a good decision or anything, but it was definitely something that yeah, I think about it sometimes, like what was the full logical thinking behind that? Like what was the plan, what was the play? And it's sometimes tough to think how it could have played a little differently, especially knowing that Schiff was running and then Barbara Lee was running. So it tough to pick a lane when you are outflanked on both sides, and leaving that swing district open in an already close house. We'll see. I mean, hopefully things don't turn out poorly, and that it was an okay decision at the end of the day. But with the way it's looking right now, it'll probably go to the general, and who knows how it'll pan out there. If Republicans see this as an actual solid opportunity to take it back. Let's see. Yeah, so all the vote by mail stuff is just coming in, trickling in. Again, all of these are typically more on the conservative side. Not necessarily Republican, but more on the conservative, since it's older, wider, and more affluent voters. All right, Katie, who's running for governor? Isaiah at 8:51 Pacific time PM. Isaiah's calling it. Katie is running for governor. I'm gonna make a note of that, Isaiah. That's an interesting. That would be interesting. It's already a very crowded field. Rob Bonta, forget the mod, Tony Atkins, I believe, Senator Tony Atkins, more on the mod side. Eleni, it'll be interesting. I honestly had never thought of that as a possibility, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out there. Let's see, we are almost at an hour mark for these results. Normally, we get another wave of responses and updates at 9 o'clock. So I'm hoping we get some more positive news then. But to give the actual update on the Sacramento percentages, Pan leading with 25%, Hansen 24%, McCarty 23.6%, Kofor at 20%. So it's a really close race up in Sacramento for the Sacramento mayor. Again, we are supporting Dr. Flo Kofor. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, when Pelosi's district is definitely one of those areas where you know that there's a lot of folks who are going to jump into that. I mean, San Francisco already is, you get a lot of folks running for different seats. Anytime there's an open seat coming up, and with the basically the congressional seat of the Bay Area opening up there, it'll definitely bring in a lot of folks running for that primary. And I remember the talk was with Congresswoman Anna Eshoo choosing to not run for re-election this cycle, that people thought that it would be Pelosi as well, if that was like an indication that Pelosi wouldn't run again. But who knows? I would imagine, interestingly, that she'll wait for the midterm. Not sure quite exactly how that will look. In unfortunate news so far, Kevin De Leon is in first place for re-election in his city council district 14. Yeah, Pelosi will not leave the minority. That's for sure. Let's see. Any updates on these? Let's see. Last time they. There's so many assembly districts. That's always tough to. I wish that I know it's not to anyone's fault, but I always wish that counties were a little bit more uniform in how quickly they update and upload their results as they get them in. I give the excuse to the bigger counties. It looks like, again, no surprise since it was a re-election, but let me say this. So Liz Ortega running for re-election in Assembly District 20. 99.96% of the vote, 11,045, and then a write-in candidate, I believe it is, with 0.04%. Coasting to a nice re-election for Assemblywoman Liz Ortega in the East Bay. Definitely think it's safe to call that one. So you heard it here first. Let's see some of the other races. Again, folks, for those of you watching, for those of you paying attention, feel free to chat in the chat box. If you have anything that you are interested in, any races that you want me to cover, bring up. I'm not sure if other folks, other colleagues are going to be able to hop on and give updates in their regions. I know all the other organizers are currently hosting election night parties at different areas across the state. We have one in Sacramento, Alameda County, San Francisco, San Mateo, LA, and the Inland Empire. I hope I didn't miss any. But we have folks up and down the state right now hosting in-person watch parties, so or election night parties, I should say, since they're not necessarily just watching. I would hand out drinks if that were possible here on YouTube virtually, but unfortunately, we have not reached that place in technology. For those of you who were following it, Proposition 1 here in California, it is at 51.2% yes, 48.8% no. This is the mental health one that, if you are in California, you have seen the ads for with Governor Newsom basically every single time you are anywhere. Let's see. These are the House races. Sounds like Latifah Simon, which is Barbara Lee's congressional seat, is easily securing that victory tonight. So that is a positive development. Not super surprising, but still positive. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other. Cool, 901. Hopefully we get some more updates now. They are a bit slower than I would like, but I will chop that up to there being a lot of vote by mail. Let's see. So we have a couple of updates also in San Mateo County. To the point of that was made earlier about how we also engage within the Democratic Party. We this time around supported a couple of slates that were running for county central committees, just so that we could hopefully get some decent folks up into the Democratic central committees in different counties. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the 8, 9, 10, 11. 7 out of the 12 currently folks that we endorsed are winning and ahead. A couple of them are a little too close to, 3 of them are too close to call, and 2 of them are losses. So at best, we can get 10 out of 12, which is a pretty good support there. And again, this is in San Mateo County at the Democratic Central Committee county stuff. In Alameda County, another thing, this is something that, to talk about the recall stuff that I mentioned before, Alameda County Recall Reform Measure B passes. This will adjust Alameda County's recall rules that they set a century ago that were not brought into compliance with state law yet. So now they are finally up to date with how to actually hold recall processes in Alameda County. So we are really grateful that folks decided to pass that, because the weaponizing of recalls has definitely been targeting progressives throughout the state, and the fact that so many recalls can be put on with such a small minority is really kind of it's just a dangerous place to be in, where just a small minority of folks. Kay coming in with all the supporters. Oh yeah, Neil's running for something too. I forgot about that. McGill, Janestine Passier. Yeah, you got all the who's who of folks on that list. I love it. I want to make sure I haven't missed any of those. I know, I don't think Sacramento has updated things yet, but Flo is basically in a 4-way tie with a couple hundreds of votes between them all. Brian, let's see how Brian's doing. Yeah, Prop 1 is slightly ahead right now, last I checked. Yeah, Brian Tapatabi in Assembly District 48, he is at 17.5%. against Blanca Rubio's 45.6% and Dan Tran, who's a Republican, 36.9%. Again, things will come in as they can. Yeah, we definitely need real big climate change justice folks at every level, especially the state legislature. I haven't seen actually too much about the snowstorm. I know it was hitting pretty hard, but with elections on my mind, it was a lot going on there. Jackie Fielder, yeah. Let's see. Marisol. I don't remember what Marisol was, which district number. I believe Marisol, regardless, I believe Marisol makes it through regardless. Let me actually just double check that. Nine. Yeah, so Marisol, I think, makes it through regardless, since it's the top two. So Tim Grayson and Marisol Rubio will both face off in November. Right now, it's 64.5% for Tim and 35.5% for Marisol. Yeah, we definitely need some more stronger WFP Dems to, with the backbone, consistently to stay fighting up against the corporate moderate Dems, which is why, I mean, we got so many folks that I am excited about. At all different levels. Oh yeah, Tony Flo definitely still has a chance of winning in SAC. I think I forgot where I saw it, but let me actually double check. Sacramento. I don't think we'll get the next update until 10 p.m. I'll still be up and doing this till then, so we'll probably have an update around then, but I don't think we're getting another update till that. Right now, it's still pretty close. Again, early ballots always lean more conservative, so I'm not too worried about a lot of these races unless there's like a huge gap between them. Let's see. Gracie Torres is in third place. Yeah, I mean, Kay and Tony, both of those things go like there's a lot of things here. I'm like, Tony, to your points first, there's so many there's just a lot of issues that I think just one, I'm not going to say like I'm not a young person. Young voters young voters are harder to talk to sometimes because they move around more often, so the voter file is not up to date. So it's tough there, and then yeah, turnout amongst them is difficult. You need like a really strong conscious effort to really get them out and engaged and stuff. Yeah, Kay, you're touching on a lot of good stuff there. Yeah, so I'm like the whole unionization effort for Uber and Lyft. I mean, Prop 22, and that whole nonsense that's still going through the courts. will probably slow down that whole process. But yeah, the whole Panera Bread thing, the caste system veto, that was, yeah. Defund, still an ongoing issue. The qualified immunity, which I'm hoping the state legislature takes up at some point. Cap on rent is definitely something. Housing and start texting phone banking campaigns. Yeah, so Kate, to your point on the text banking, phone banking earlier, it's we get into the area of like a campaign compliance stuff in terms of like how much money we can spend on different races and how much money is available and like the limits and the limitations for those things. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to like coordinate on, and like one of the things that I am hoping to do more for the general election is to help train folks up on how necessary it is to start early and to talk to a lot of folks. And Tony, to your point too, of like college campuses, making sure campaigns are actively engaging with young people. It's not like, oh, shoot them a text, hope that they vote for you. I mean, myself, a lot of folks in my generation and younger, there's a general distrust for the whole process. They're like, if it's not Bernie, it's not it. Changing that narrative around, you can do so much on city council, you can do so much through the state legislature. Universal single-payer healthcare is on that road. It doesn't have to just go through the stuff federally. It doesn't have to just be the presidential stuff. But Bernie, again, was a great messenger for this. People really resonated with that. He had 2 full presidential elections. Bernie did a really good job at 2016 and 2020, especially in California. I was on the Sanders campaign in 2020, and so there's a lot of things in there that I think Bernie allowed to tap into folks. Like, they see the optimism there, and a lot of campaigns need to kind of tap into that as well. So I mean, we definitely need to address, Kate, to your point of how to address and attack all of those recalls, because they're just being weaponized for basically, to boil it down to the completely just anti-democratic reasons. So a small minority of folks can really just shape how an election gets put on a ballot, especially a small special election. I mean, I don't think I mentioned it tonight, but in Santana, one of our first endorsed candidates in Orange County in the city of Santana, Jessie Lopez, she couldn't be bought by the police. The cops were pissed at her, and so that they funded a recall of her and another council member to get them off of city council, because like, hey, she's anti-comp, she wants crime, blah blah blah, the normal talking points that they do. And they were able to force a recall in a completely special election recall. Nothing else was on the ballot, but we were able to beat it back. So Tony, yeah, you're talking about exactly, we were able to beat that recall. But again, a small influential group of folks with money decided, hey, I don't like this elected official because we can't buy them out. We're going to fund a recall, force that recall in a special election, which is going to be super low turnout. And then we were able to beat it back. Again, grassroots support through and through. We were able to beat back that recall in Santana. So I mean, that's another thing too. The unions and this unionization wave that we're in, that kind of hot labor summer, as it was called last summer, and it's starting to continue still. There's just a lot of energy getting built up. A lot of folks are feeling like, hey, we do have a lot of power, And people are seeing that radicalization come up in how folks choose to engage with the political system. It's like, we're not just going to stay quiet anymore and sit on the sidelines. We're going to get engaged. We're going to stay and hold people accountable for what they say and do. So all of these things, yeah, I mean, there's so many things that, yeah. Okay, every time you bring something up, I'm like, that's another fight that we're focusing on. It's another fight that we're focusing on. And a lot of these things, I always think that there's nice ways to think about, like, oh, we could have a magic wand, and if there's a state legislature, we just have to focus on that, and we can change all the things that we need to here in California. Yeah, there's big systemic stuff that we can do to make these changes. And when it comes to keeping cops out of school, that comes down to largely the school board. Shout out People's Council LA. But yeah, keep cops out of school. That sometimes it's through the city, sometimes it's through the school boards, but there are so many different levels that folks need to be made aware of, and then vote accordingly, so that we get folks in there that know that this is an issue that we want to focus on, that know this is something that we really want to prioritize. There's a lot of things that I think if folks realized how important it was and how important it is that we have folks at every level of things, because every level tackles something differently. Schools focus on how we retain good teachers. How do we retain folks that will teach students well, what actually have their best interest, who stand up against charter schools. A lot of these things happen on a school board level, and then city council has, like, okay, maybe their priority is housing, maybe that's the county, mental health. There's so many different things that fall in different jurisdictions that it is important for us to continually remind folks why these elections are important. And as California WFP, we play a role in that. And it also is like on other orgs, because I mean, California WFP, for those of you who don't know, we're made up of a bunch of organizations on the statewide level, and also on the regional levels too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Prop 22, and Harris with the relationship with Lyft and BlackRock. Also, shout out SAG and Starbucks and WGA. Letter writing postcards, year-long campaign too. I mean, like for Starbucks too, Joe Thompson, who's running for Santa Cruz City Council District 5, I believe. Joe was at one of the first Starbucks that unionized in California, and now they're running for City Council in Santa Cruz. So it was, again, not too long ago that they were organizing Starbucks, first folks in California to unionize, and now Joe's running for City Council in Santa Cruz. Yeah, so I mean, getting voting IQ up on college campuses is a must. That's 100%. I mean, I'm hoping we can revive our young, what was it called? Young People's Organizing campaign that we did before. Again, you're on fire right now. You're on fire with all this. Yeah, so I mean, voter education, political education, Black Voters Matters stuff, I mean, climate justice, environmental justice, all these different things. I think folks feel, and I'll speak for myself a bit too, like folks feel that these are such daunting things that they somehow have to kind of tackle alone, that they don't realize that there's a lot of folks that feel the same way, and it's important for us that we can work together on these things, and it's not something that one of us has to feel like we have to take on alone. And like a lot of the things that you mentioned, like a lot of these things are community stuff. I mean, that's first and foremost one of the biggest pieces that we really need to continue to build out and strengthen is our communities and supporting one another. And yeah, some of that is through electoral work, um, but there's so many different levels of this stuff. I mean, the judicial system, the how we address, refer to mental health, that again, restorative justice pieces. Um, all of these things are stuff that shouldn't just fall on one person. Um, and it takes all of us to really get engaged with these things and um, support folks where they need the support. But Kay, you're rolling through them all right now. You're on fire with it. Um, make sure I haven't missed any updates while we've been chatting here. Let's see stuff in LA. Yeah, Jackie. We endorsed California WFP endorsed Jackie in 2020 in her state senate race, and I believe Jackie's not running until November for the general. So uh, that's something I think we still need to endorse. Um, but I mean, one of the things I actually want to highlight too, that now that you're mentioning folks too, that if you hear of folks that should be endorsed for WFP, sometimes it just slips under our radar. Sometimes folks there's like a miscommunication of things. So if you ever hear of candidates not being supported yet, make sure that they have um, like our endorsement questionnaires on our website. And then the other thing too is uh, just ping us on Instagram. I say Instagram because Twitter is whatever now, but like ping us on Instagram and say like, hey, this is a candidate coming up in this area for this seat. They'd be great to endorse. And if they don't already have the endorsement questionnaire and stuff, we can reach out to them and make sure that they get a hold of that. Because again, come November, there's going to be a lot of smaller races um, that I think are super important. And like, I think, yeah, the fascism and the rise of it and it's really showing its face, it forces us to organize often, and I think it scared people a bit into really seeing that the threat was a bit more real. um so it'll be interesting to see how folks continue to think about this and focus on things. um let's see. Yeah, definitely WFP solidarity and admire Dr. West and Claudia de la Cruz. Yeah, student lunch bills is such a crazy thing that there's a lot of these things that are always crazy to think about sometimes. But student lunch bills and absurd, absolutely absurd. And like the canceling student debt thing, I was naively optimistic come 2020 that we had shifted the conversation enough where it would actualize into something tangible. But I don't think it did. We're still very much struggling against the conversation there. Let's see. Yeah, actually, Kate, to your point of definitely debt collective and strike debt too. We are trying to pilot um a program to focus on like how to engage high school high school students on in kind of like the electoral process through WFP, because it's just interesting that we need to um really need to support folks through the whole process. I mean, along the way, and how we educate folks, and we can't just rely on things. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a long. Actually, that's another good point too. There's a long history of leftist activism and leftist action, leftist elected officials, and I think folks are unaware of that history and the framing of the history that they get through mainstream media or through typical education that doesn't really critically think about these things is they see each of these things. They see the Black Panthers, see things in the 60s, they see things back in the 40s and 30s as like a negative. They don't see it as like, oh, this is something, this is a one and done thing. Um, so it's very, I think there's a narrative piece missing. It's like, this is a journey along for which these people, these organizations, these movements played a part to get us to this point. And at the same time, there's another narrative on the opposite side of things of the recessions, the rich and the wealthy, their narrative of always pushing things to the limit of, oh, how can we go ahead and scrape as much money together as possible from these people? How can we skirt around these different things so that we can make as much money as possible? But there's a narrative there in terms of how leftism, leftist activism, leftist thought has really persisted and grown and flexed its muscle and shown up in different ways at different times, basically chameleoning. I just made that a word now. How we show up at different times. So whether it's being engaged in the electoral process, whether it's mass movements, whether it's a combination of everything, whether it's intellectualism, there's a lot of different stuff here that we can grow into. And I think teaching folks, I mean, at any point, I don't think it's too late to teach this stuff to folks. But in high school, in college, I think that is a formidable time to really tap in and inform folks that this is the case. So like, this is something that folks probably would want to know, and probably should know. But that was a tangent away from the election stuff. Let's see. I promise y'all this is an election night recap thing. And we're looking at results. Let's see. So it looks like Nikki Bass in Alameda County has slightly extended her lead. So it's a positive development there. I'm gonna make a note of that. Okay, about Angelica and Jackie. I'm gonna make sure things didn't fall through the cracks with that, because that is interesting. I'm making a note of that right now. And okay, I made a note of that. Hey, yep. It's easy for Black and Brown communities to see fascism for what it is in the different forms it takes and the different ways that it tries to convince people. So it definitely, this latest wave of fascism and how it turned up definitely opened not the Black and Brown communities to it. We've been well aware of this country's history of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I made a note of that because those two candidates also are like some of more of the well-known folks too, in terms of who really is up and coming and all that. Yeah, I mean, I wish lying weren't so commonplace amongst popular politicians. We definitely run into that often where they say one thing then do another. Yeah, when Harris was Attorney General, that was definitely something that folks were very much reminded of when she was running for president. That was definitely something that and the fact that it's not even like up for interpretation, basically. It's very much here is Kamala Harris as Attorney General saying this on camera and laughing about it. Yeah, big shout out to the Ella Baker Center. Yeah. I mean, we're still in I don't want to say our infancy in here in California as WFP. We started officially in 2020, somewhat officially, soft launch 2020, official big launch 2022. So we're building out, and I am optimistic with a lot of folks in this group. A lot of folks that support us, a lot of folks that are engaged in this process, that we will be able to make larger radical systemic change that needs to be done. Yeah, don't even get me started on Florida. Florida, for all my complaints that I have of California, it pales in comparison to some of the other states. Florida definitely being one of the worst on the list. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of fights that we need to keep having, and being organized, being intentional is, I think, a really big part of this. It ensures that no one person feels the need to carry it all themselves, and at the same time allows us to really build out. Actually, let me check how Jenistine is doing. I haven't checked that one out recently. Why are there so many? So currently, Jenistine's down. Jen's at 36.68%. Okay, to your point of the Chesa thing, I was on the campaign. I'm not. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that really how do I say it nicely? There were a lot of things behind the scenes that hindered our ability to successfully protect Chesa. But ultimately, we weren't able to do enough at that point. By the time I got involved, so lessons learned for other recalls that come up. Yeah, I mean, and definitely to your point too on the pro military, pro prison aspect of both parties. We can agree on some policy issues with the Dems in terms of, like, at least on paper, or at least in the ideals of where things are supposed to be. But in terms of where true allegiances lie, that the pro military, pro prison aspect of things definitely needs a large overhaul in terms of getting new folks in these spaces to make decisions that are mindful of this. I'm 19 minutes, hopefully, fingers crossed, until we get the next update from stuff in Sacramento. Again, we have the big race up there right now is Dr. Flo running for mayor of Sac, and then Katie Valenzuela running for re-election for her city council seat. So, a progressive WFP mayor in Sacramento would be huge. So, fingers crossed she makes it through and goes to the general in November. Would be even nicer if she won outright, but with a crowded field, I do not think that is likely. But we shall see. What other races are folks interested in? I want to make sure I'm not forgetting stuff because we have a lot of races and I want to make sure that we're focusing on them too. Again, Kevin DeLeon's still ahead in his city council district 14, which sucks. That just goes to show you the advantage incumbents have in a lot of these seats. In other news, as we wait for more updates, the city of Santana is potentially thinking of passing a ceasefire resolution, or at least it's been considered. Again, this is where we beat back the recall of Jesse Lopez. So this is what happens when we successfully defend our folks. Let's see how some of our other folks are doing. 13 minutes till hopefully round 2. We'll see what else we get. Again, folks, if there are other races that I have forgotten to mention or highlight or that I think are worth bringing up, please let me know. I want to make sure that we cover everything, especially as things are a bit slower to trickle in. Let's see. Looks like Corey Jackson again will secure his re-election. No surprise there. Let's check some of our other assembly folks. Let's check the Inland Empire. Deshane Shah, who is our candidate in Inland Empire Assembly District 50, she's at 25.9%, but that is with 0.3%. Let's see what else there is. Javier's Assembly District 53. Javier Hernandez is in 4th place with 13.9%. Again, only 12.9% of the precincts partially reporting. It's gonna be a long night. This was last updated about 11 minutes ago. It's kind of hoping the results would come in a little quicker. Next time, though, you all are witnessing the first iteration of this. Second iteration is going to have that CNN wall that they have where you can just click things and it will update the colors and you can zoom in. So you heard it here first. Come November, this will be a full production and not just a spreadsheet on Google. Maybe next time I'll even have pictures. No worries. Glad you could join. Yeah, I was driving. I drove down from SAC this morning, and it was, what was it? I dropped off my ballot. I always wait to always wait to vote at the end because I like to collect all the mailers and see all the different texts that people send. It is a bit annoying, but it's always interesting to see and just check out the different designs because I'm a nerd like that. But I voted earlier today. I dropped off my ballot there, so uh, even again, I mentioned this earlier on in the evening, but even when we get our mail ballots a whole month ahead of time, it's one of those things where it's tough to actually get in sometimes. I think Marsh Middleton. Yeah, let me check. Okay, so Portia Middleton, this is Assembly District 7. Josh Hoover, the Republican, is at 49.6%. Portia Middleton, the Dem, 31.8%. And then YK, another Dem, is at 18.6%. So keeping Josh underneath that 50%, good sign right now. And this is 98.5 of the precincts partially reporting. Last updated 7 minutes ago. So looking good right now. Let's hope that stays up to date there. Which one's Assembly District 7 again? I don't have my map in front of me. This is the other one in Sac County, I think. Josh Hoover, I think, is Sac. Oh, yeah, Citrus Heights. Oh, yes. Yeah, State Assembly District 7. Yeah, so Portia's in second with 31.8% of the vote to Josh Hoover's 49.6%. And YK is at 18.6%. So Porsche has a healthy second place lead from third place, and keeping Josh underneath that 50% is close. He's at 49.6%, so he's not too far. Not too far from 50, but with late ballots typically skewing a bit more left, or at least Dem, I should say, that might be a good indication. The election results on the Secretary of State's website is broken down by name of the county and then which districts are in those counties. I feel like that is a bit cumbersome. It'd be nice if they had a map. Just like, oh, hover over this one. But I guess that assumes folks know the map, so maybe that does make sense. But some good news out of Concord City Council tonight. They approved rent control and just cause for evictions with a 4-1 final vote. It sounds like it took them about a decade to get this passed through the work of the organizers and tenants there. But positive news, again, goes to show you city councils, smaller races, all of these things are super important for passing progressive legislation. $3 minutes till the next update. Fingers crossed we get some good news out of Sacramento. Again, where we're looking at Dr. Flo and Kitty Valenzuela in their respective races for mayor and city council. Again, Mai Vang, who was running unopposed, successfully, of course, made it through. Nothing too crazy about that. But that is, again, one of our WFP folks. Let's see. Yep, we are. So just for reference for stuff in Sacramento, I might not be able to get through this for all of the races, but Sacramento specifically, the initial releases at 8:15 were from a vote by mail and mail center ballots that were returned and processed before today, election day. The second report, which will be in about a minute, is from the vote centers today. And then updates every 2 hours from all vote centers from there. And then first interim report will be posted by 4 p.m. on Friday after election day, so a couple days away. I will not be live through that time to cover it all there, but that will contain results from vote by mail ballots and provisional ballots received timely. And then subsequent reports were released every Tuesday and Friday until certification. So hoping that, let's see where we're at right now. Currently, there are 29,000 votes for the SAC mayor race. So let's see if this updates. I'm going to be spamming this update until we get the next update here. But so for reference, 29,695, that was the 8:15 update from the Sac County. We are just waiting for the next one. 5,129 were in Katie's district, Council District 4. Hopefully we get the update shortly for this one. Another one for, actually, forgot to update for this one too. Braden Murphy in Sacramento Board of Supervisors, District 4. He is sitting at 21.79% to Brett Daniels' 30.18% and Rosario Rodriguez's 48.03%. He's about 1,700, so about 1,700 short of second place, with 178,000 votes possible in that district at 13%. So it'll be interesting to see what we get from that. Let's check some other ones. Oh, Derek Marshall in actually Congressional District 23. I haven't checked that one yet. Congressional District 23. Derek Marshall, 43%, to Jay Arnold at 57%, 18,711 to 24,787. 12.2% of the precincts partially reported in. Again, we probably got a while before we get a closer assessment of how this is going to end up. But with 43%, again, in a Dem versus Rep race, not too bad for early results. City of Sacramento has lied to me, and they have not updated things yet. All right, well, while we wait for that, let's see. Oh, refreshing. Nope. Okay, false alarm, people. Let's see, what other races? Again, folks, thank you for Miguel for pinging that one. I want to make sure I get around to all of the ones that we want to focus on this evening. Let's check. This nope, this one's not up to date yet. I was checking County of Riverside. Gracie Torres is running for Board of Supervisors seat number 1. She had a really good social media game. I know that's not a good necessary indication of if someone's going to win or not, but it's always a good sign when someone knows how to do outreach on social media. When it comes off as authentic, it really goes a long way. And I think that goes to one of the points of reaching out to younger voters in a way that they understand. I believe Gracie is an old, I don't say older millennial, but an elder millennial. So just making sure that folks authentically reach out in ways that are natural to them without seeming like they're pandering goes a long way to getting folks on board with their campaign. Hopefully that translates to votes. Again, it all really depends on the ground game. Let's see. Let's check Santa Cruz. And again, 8:15 was that last update. That is not useful for us. Maybe they'll do 10:15 then. Still no update from Sacramento. At 8:01 is the last one. Let's see. Talk about slow response day. Nothing from Santa Cruz. Fingers crossed. Sacramento is not updated yet. Let's see. Well, let's go through all the state ledge ones just to make sure things haven't updated in the meantime. Sasha Renee Perez, Assembly Senate District 25. Yep, Sasha Renee Perez at 29.6% of the vote. Yvonne Yu, 20.8. Elizabeth Wong Alher is 34.6. Sasha with a nice, comfortable 7,000, almost 8,000 vote lead. So that is looking good. That's 76.6% of the precincts partially reported in. Good indication there. Let's check. Alex Mohiger, Assembly District 37. Oh boy, there's a million candidates in this one. Not looking the best for that one. Josh Newman is at 34.7% with 35,000 votes. Alex is at 6.9% with 6,972 votes. That is first, second, third, fourth. That is fifth place, with second place being 21,000 votes. Steep battle, uphill battle, in order to get into those top two, but Alex is technically the second highest Dem with a percentage, even though it's only 6.9%. Not sure if that one's going to pan out well, but that's that one. And then let's check back up to the assembly ones. Monica Wilson with Assembly District 15. Monica Wilson's at 24.6%. Sonia Leto, Republican, is 29.7%, so about 2,000 votes ahead of her. And then Anne Marie Avila Farias, the other Dem, at 32.1%, which is about 3,000 votes ahead of Monica. 0.0% of precincts partially reporting. Say that 3 times fast. But that, I think, plenty of room to see how that ends up down the line. Let's check Brian again in Assembly District 48, if there's any updates there. Brian's still sitting about 17.5%. To Dan Tran, the Republican, 36.9%. He needs to pick up a decent amount of Democratic votes to make it into the top two, with Blanca at 12,000 votes, 45.6%. Desjardins, Assembly District 50. Let's check this one again. Desjardins just slightly behind, about 500 votes behind second place. 0.3% of the precincts still reporting in. This was still about 30 minutes ago, last updated. Javier Hernandez, 53. Hasn't updated yet. Let's check Shade Hawaii. Shade comfortably sitting at 29.3% to Efren Martinez's 37.4%. Pretty comfortable lead ahead of the next person up with about 1,600 votes. So Shade is looking good there. Let's check 58. Assembly District 58, which is Clarissa Cervantes, 27.9% to Ronaldo Fierro's 28.3%. It's about 100 votes between those two. And Leticia Castillo is at 43.8%. So if Clarissa can pick up that deficit from Ronaldo and then continue a lead from there, she'll make it into the top two for the general. That is it, I believe, for those assembly races. Let's see if Sacramento is updated. Finally, Sacramento is updated. Let's jump into this. Okay, well, when I said it was 29,000, we're up to 31,000. Nothing has changed. Actually, yeah, nothing has changed. The votes are still the same. Flow is sitting at 20.46%. So I don't think this one will be called anytime tonight, since that last update after 2 hours was about 2,000 votes, and the first update was about 29,000. We got a ways to go for that one before anything can be decisively called there. Let's see. Don't think we'll get... So that next update's not till after midnight for SAC. The assembly ones, they don't reliably say. It all depends on county for those ones. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything, but it has been a little over 2 hours now, and things are slowing down in terms of getting responses to actually make decisive decisions on who's going to win or not, which is unfortunate because it's always nice to have a clear-cut understanding of where we're going to be jumping into come November. But for the sake of everything, I think we may just wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody who has joined us this evening. Again, if you are interested in any of the events or anything about WFP, our welcome gathering, if this loads, it does. Our welcome gathering is coming up next Monday. If you know folks that are interested in hearing about WFP, what we do, what we're focusing on, and kind of what our next steps are going to look like after this primary, feel free to send them this link. This is one of the things that we do every month. So if they miss this one, they can attend the next one in April, first Monday of every month, with the exception of this month because we had an election that took priority for yesterday. So again, thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. The full recap will be on the 18th. If you are interested in that, it is up on, actually, it might not be up yet. So, but check out our Mobilize page every now and then. I will try to have it up by Thursday at the latest, in order to like really see who's made it through, so we can have guest speakers there. But we will have the full analysis of what happened, turnout, who's winning, who's making it ahead, all of those things, moving forward into the general. Again, thank you for joining us this evening. The results are slow, so I don't want to keep just running on for a while and not making it anywhere. The next update's not going to be till like around midnight. And even then, the latest update only brought us a couple hundreds and maybe about 2,000 votes in some of the races. I will again just quickly go through any of the big things from this evening. Nikki Fortunato Bass in Alameda County, she is up ahead for her race. All of our incumbents in the assembly are easily coasting to victory. Thank you, Miguel. Thanks for being a caregiver. Best of luck with everything. I hope you can show up to something in the meantime sometime. Any of the virtual events, you are always welcome. And we try to do recordings too, so if you can't make anything, feel free to attend those, and we'll make sure to send out the recordings afterward. Final updates. Things are still TBD. Maivang, again, coasting to victory. I will post in, actually, let me, before I forget, we always are talking on Discord. If there's anything that you have questions about at any point, all of our staff is on Discord. I will provide updates in Discord itself as we get them. If I'm up tonight still, I will still add things there, but otherwise I will be posting things throughout the day tomorrow into the next couple of days and into the next week as we finally get updates. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's basically Slack, but better and nicer and more catered towards building a community. So hope to see you there. Thank you again for joining us this evening. Hopefully you learned something new, found something interesting. But otherwise, thank you. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night.